This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 103. Models and Memories is a show about nothing that is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wording experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week I want to talk about the models Games Workshop revealed at their Warhammer World Open Day, look at the new slimy skink model, and go through the pros and cons of the new boarding patrol boxes. But first, I want to talk about spaces and how comforting and inviting a nice square space can be. Squarespace is the most trusted name in creating your own website and hosting what makes you and your business unique. And it does it all in a nice, reassuring square space. Whether you need to host the perfect image that encapsulates your unique brand and display it rendered in crisp, sharp detail, Squarespace's automatic image scaling has got you covered. Show off your merchandise and display it proudly to the world and your customers housed in a satisfying and easy to assemble store page. And when it comes to squares, Squarespace says, have it your way. Choose from one of the dozens of award-winning templates Squarespace has to offer. No matter what kind of look you want for your website, Squarespace has you covered. So get out there and make your own square-shaped space online. Follow the link below to try it out for free, and when you're ready to launch, use our code EonsOfBattle to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Let's take a look at that new skinky skink. Games Workshop is steadily working their way through a full range refresh for the Seraphon, and I am all about it. I really wanted to do a Seraphon army, even like before I really got into Age of Sigmar, but a bunch of the other armies that maybe have a little bit newer models kind of got to me first, but I think I might go back and start a little skink action. There's a new Star Master in town, and his name is the Skink Starseer. He's on a lovely little baby version of the Star Lords or the Croaks, not Croaks, Croaks, like Croak. What is Croak? He's a Slan, and he is like a big fat Jabba the Hutt looking guy sat upon a throne. And this guy, this little skink, is on a baby version of that throne. Oh, she's gonna look so cute floating next to the really, really big ones. And this model is glorious. It is very humble compared to the other ones, but I think that's good because he's just a lowly skink Starseer. He's not like a big celestial yet. Ooh, I need to read the lore of the Seraphon because is a Croak or a Lord Croak just a really, really fat skink, or is it their own species? I would love to know that. Probably a different species because the Croak is a lot more frog-like compared to the skinks that are more lizard-like. But this is just a fun little model. It looks like he's sat proudly on a 50mm base, which is a lovely size that Games Workshop seems to be moving away from, or maybe I'm just really, really salty because I bought the new Sentinel, expecting it to be on at least a 60mm base, but it turned out to be an 80mm base. Games Workshop and their scale creep is real. And for the most part, I enjoy it. I like big models, but I like medium models. Really big stuff starts to be a little bit like, how do I get that to the local game store? But this guy looks like he's on, if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably on a 50mm base, and I love a 50mm base. It's a very, very lovely size. And a really nicely painted miniature, except for maybe they didn't work that hard on the stone. The stone, everything else is really, really beautiful, and he's got this headdress with lovingly highlighted little feathers, but the stone that makes up his chair is just kind of gray. I mean, at least throw a little contrast paint or something on there. Stipple a little bit of green as the moss is growing. Although maybe because he's like a lowly Starseer skink, this is freshly chiseled. Like it is right off of the skink assembly line. Ooh, and then how do they? So obviously they have to make a chair, right? And then they imbue it with magical properties, celestial magical properties that make it like float. At what point in the process do they put on the floaty bits? Like, do they, it's what probably it is a whole bunch of other Starseers like get around the chair and then they like all get into like a prayer circle and they chant their magic and then it slowly levitates and it's like a beautiful and super cool ceremony that's probably described in the books. But I like to think that they take those little battery looking things at the very bottom and a skink just starts hammering. And then once they get that last one hammered on, it goes whoop, and it begins to float. It is a really, really cool model though. there's so many, like, of these floaty chairs now. I wonder which one is going to be, like, the one. Like, is this guy kind of like a Space Marine lieutenant? Like, you take him when you want to spend your other points on, like, bigger models and you don't want to spend a huge amount on your HQ. But sometimes you're like, you know what? Croak's coming to battle today. And so you spend half of your army points on just Croak, and then you don't bring one of these. But I love it. I love the alternate skink with the really, really cool staff and his magical crystal ball. It's really, really nice. Ah, gosh, I just love the Seraphon so much. I do really like the new Saurus Warriors that Games Workshop showed off a few weeks ago, but I would be tempted because I don't have a lot of horde armies. I mean, I guess I did just collect Sylvaneth, and Sylvaneth is very hordy depending on how you put them together, but maybe I'd want to go skink heavy. If Games Workshop refreshes the skinks, or maybe even if they don't, because I can get the old skinks really, really cheap, it might be fun to do like a really, really skink heavy army with one of these skink Starseers right in the middle of it. Oh, and the new skinks on the cute little Velociraptors, or they're not Velociraptors really, they're like Veloci Bird Raptors. Ah, I love it. Absolutely love it. But speaking of things I don't quite love, but really for my own reasons, the new Wrath of the Soul-Forged King box is becoming available to pre-order, and I think it's a little bit lame. This big old battle box is a classic. It is the Dark Angels Space Marine chapter versus Chaos. And it does have some really, really cool new things. It's got the new Azrael, and it's got the new Spiky, whatever the heck his name is, the giant engine seer, corrupted demon princey little guy with a hammer. It's some really, really cool models in this box. However, what immediately jumped out to me with this box is it's Dark Vengeance. Does anybody remember Dark Vengeance from back in the day, from 6th edition and 7th edition Warhammer? I have such a vivid memory of every single manager at my local Warhammer store hawking that box to me as hard as they possibly could. And I bought one. I did buy one. And they're like, you want another one? And to be fair, that box was lovely. It came with lots of beautiful Dark Angels models and a bunch of beautiful Chaos models that I still have, although I've somehow lost a bunch of them. I think I might have given them away to a friend of mine. But this box has just given me straight flashbacks to that box. To be fair, this box is not entirely monopose, although the Hellbrute, Chaos Spider, Cultists, and the new Vishtor is all monopose, and so is Azrael. Basically, the not monopose half of this box is the Space Marines. It looks like you get a bunch of Intercessors and the Dark Angels Deathwing Terminators, which are lovely. I love all of the unique Terminators, like the Blood Angel Assault Terminators, the Deathwing Terminators, the Space Wolves Terminators, and for like a brief weekend, the Death Watch had unique Terminators that were really just regular Terminators with a bunch of shoulder pads, but I miss them. I miss Terminators being awesome, and I just want 10th edition to get here, just so that I guarantee the 10th edition battle box is going to have Terminators in it. They must. Why would they not redo Terminators? They're redoing everything else for the Space Marines. And aggressors are not Terminators. They're very, very different. They can move a lot better. They don't have teleportation shenanigans. They don't really have any close combat to speak of. I mean, they have generically decent punchy fists, but you never really get them into close combat because you take them either flamethrower or shooter. Lots and lots of like strength 4, strength 5 shooting, which is kind of lame because there's hundreds of Space Marine units that are decent at throwing out strength 4 hits. So I feel like aggressors don't really have a nice niche to fill. But we're talking about Terminators. This box comes with Deathwing Terminators. I don't know, this box doesn't really appeal to me that much. Also, it's a little frustrating to see the Venom Crawler and the Chaos Shooty guys. They were previously available in the old. They came out in a box set, and then they were available as a start collecting force for the Chaos Space Marines. And now they're here once again in one of these big battle boxes. So we have not been able to just buy those units on their own separately from Games Workshop for years. Make them available. Just put them in a box and put them on the shelf, because those are really cool units, and I would not mind having some, but I don't want to get all the rest of this. I just don't want to relive Dark Vengeance. It was a lovely time. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was before Games Workshop had a Facebook page, but they were selling the Dark Vengeance box. It was such a good box that they kept it as the Games Workshop starter set for 2 editions of Warhammer. Also probably because 6th edition Warhammer only lasted 2 years because it sucked. It almost brought Warhammer 40k to its knees, but yeah, the new Dark Vengeance box looks a lot like the old Dark Vengeance box. Granted, it comes with some bigger stuff. They've swapped out the Space Marine Dreadnought and the Chaos Dreadnought for this new Vishtor miniature, which is really, really lovely, and I cannot wait for it to get out into the universe so that I can see people paint it up really, really nicely. Oh, the Heavy Metal team kind of, they did a really, really good job on it. But yeah, Dark Vengeance 2.0. If Games Workshop called this box Dark Vengeance 2.0, or just call it Dark Vengeance again, it would have been such a meme. It would have been hilarious. That, even though I have no interest in any of these miniatures because I don't collect Dark Angels or Chaos, like, I would have been tempted for the sheer meme of it to once again have Dark Vengeance arrive at my doorstep. God, what even happened to my Dark Vengeance box? Like, because let me know in the comments below, because this is how I always transported my miniatures. You bring the big cardboard starter box and you use it as a tray and you put all of your dice and your miniatures in there, and that becomes how you transport your miniatures. And for years, that's how I did it. The box probably got like wet one day. Like maybe I accidentally spilled my Burger King on it and I had to throw it away or something. We would always get Burger King when we went to the game store because it was right across the street. And so we would play some games, Burger King, and then finish our games. But yeah, good old Dark Vengeance 2.0. Also, at the Warhammer World Open Day, they showed off 2 new reimaginings of some legendary characters from 40k's history. And they are reimaginings, sort of. They're just refreshes is probably a better word, because they're very, very similar to their original counterparts. We have Commander Farsight, commander of the Farsight Enclave of the Tau, which is one of the coolest things in the Warhammer 40k fictional universe. It's just Tau who have chosen to disregard the rules and the orders from the ethereal class that rules the Tau, and have decided to strike it out on their own. And they're kind of the only actual good guys in all of Warhammer 40k. And they're still, you know what? They are good guys. They just are good guys. Because they do wage war, but they've probably done some pretty unethical things, but in the world of Warhammer 40k, they are absolute princesses. They are absolute sweethearts. They do not do the incredibly awful evil things that all of the other factions of 40k do. So it's really, really cool to see a new Commander Farsight, and it's great to have him in plastic, because a whole Crisis battle suit of resin is annoying. I mean, originally it was metal. It's like some of the bigger Infinity miniatures, like starts to actually weigh like a pound to actually have it on the tabletop. But I really like the new pose. And it's interesting that they kind of brought in this little flowery plant. Like, it's a little bit kind of cherry blossom Japanesey, which obviously is what the Tau is. The Tau are anime. And so I really like the new miniature. It's a really nice update of the old sculpt. I might have liked the old pose a little bit better, sprinting forward using his Nova Shield to keep himself safe from enemy fire, where the new one is a little bit more presenting. But it's a crisis suit. It's not going to be hard to kit bash. I mean, it's a robot. It's got joints. So really, you can have Commander Farsight any way you want him. You can have it your way, just like I did when I went to Burger King when I was a little kid. I really like the little tassels. And actually, a fun thing that I've done with my Tau, I have a smattering of Tau. Really, it's just a couple of kill teams. But what I really like to do is I print out random Tau. I actually downloaded Tau font onto my Photoshop account. And so I just make little strips of language. Usually it says something like Sean sucks, or I'm going to beat Nick in the next battle. And then I just print it out really small, and then I cut it out into these little strips of Tau script. And then I soak it in Elmer's glue, and then you can wrap it around Tau, and it looks really, really nice. When I inevitably do a Tau army, I'm definitely gonna do Farsight Enclave, and the tan or white wrapping looks really, really nice over top of their red armor. It's just a lovely way to add in more colors. And red and white is a pretty darn good look. I mean, Games Workshop knows it, because basically, so the way the Tau works is the Tau color schemes are homeworlds. So Space Marines have chapters, Tau have homeworlds. And Tau is the name of the original Tau homeworld. Tau is Tau's Earth. And so originally everything was that kind of yellow ochre color. And I wonder if that was just maybe not the color scheme. I liked it. I think it looked really nice. But a few years ago, like within the last 5 years, Games Workshop actually repainted all of the Tau that they show off in the Games Workshop web store to be a homeworld known as Vior La, which is a mostly white with red accents. And it looks really, really nice. And the lore of Vior La is that they're the violent Tau. They're the most aggressive, the most violent, and the most warlike Tau, which does seem like a good fit for the world of Warhammer. And it is a really, really sexy color scheme. So I guess Games Workshop is moving away from the yellow ochre and into the red and white. And it also works really well for Farsight Enclave. And if you paint Farsight Enclave, but you want to mix things up a little bit, having some things be a little bit more of a Vior La pattern with where like a red head and a white body as opposed to a red body and a white head, it looks really good. Basically, always whenever you're working on your army, because sometimes it can get a little boring to just do every single thing the exact same way, you can take your accent color and just for this one particular squad, just flip it. Just have your accent color be your base color and your base color be your accent color. It'll look great. It'll look phenomenal with the rest of your army. It'll add some nice contrast. You know, you want contrast on your miniatures, but you also kind of want a little bit of contrast in your group army. And so I think that that is an excellent, excellent way to do it. And I really like the new Commander Farsight. And speaking of commanders, we got a new orc commander in Snick Rot. Snick Rot is a fairly popular orc character. I mean, I never really see anyone take him. He was the guy you would take if you wanted to go commando heavy, which no one has ever really wanted to. I think recently they got somewhat decent, but for years and years and years, Commandos was just a more expensive way to take boys. And boys, you never wanted to splash out a lot of points on your boys because literally they were one of the weakest things in all of Warhammer. Not anymore because they've actually gone up a toughness. And so orcs actually are pretty darn good now, but the new Snick Rot, the boss Snick Rot is the boss of the Commandos, the sneakiest of gits. And the new one, once again, just like Commander Farsight, is very, very faithful to the original model. The pose is almost exactly the same. Before, he was kind of holding both of his knives at the ready, and now he's holding his knives just a little tiny bit less at the ready. That's really the big change. And I assume he's much, much bigger and actually made of plastic, which is a really, really nice change. But man, everything else has been kept almost exactly the same. His knives are the exact same shape. He has dog tags wrapped around his arms, which I think now, when I saw the refresh, I actually noticed that they're dog tags, where I didn't notice that they were dog tags on the original miniature. I mean, you can sort of tell if you look kind of hard, but the new kit, maybe it's painted a little bit better, or maybe all of those individual little balls are just rendered a little bit better in the new plastic. So you can actually tell that they're dog tags. Almost certainly dog tags from Imperial Guard, which is kind of an unfair fight. I would hope any orc could rack up a huge number of Imperial Guard dog tags without too much effort, but Snick Rot has them proudly displayed on his arms. It looks like a really, really lovely miniature. I think my local game store actually might have an old Snick Rot. Because the old Snick Rot is probably the same size as new orcs, because orcs have just had a tiny, tiny little bit of scale creep. And so maybe, because later on we'll talk about some new orcs coming out that I want to buy. And maybe I want the old Snick Rot for a little project I'm working on. Yeah, I like it. This guy's really cool. Like it a lot. No complaints, except for probably the price when that's revealed. And speaking of big old things from Games Workshop has shown off another 2 Xenos Start Collecting boxes. And by Start Collecting, I mean boarding actions boxes. These basically are the new Start Collectings. They cost about the same, a little bit more than the old Start Collectings used to cost. They come with a very similar amount of miniatures, a very similar spread of miniatures, because some of these boxes are a lot more and a lot less points for the game, where the standard Start Collecting boxes, the combat patrols, are about 5,000 points each. So it's a perfect way to start your army and have it balanced against another person who bought a Start Collecting box or a combat patrol box. But the 2 that Games Workshop showed off this week is, weirdly enough, the Tau and the Orcs. It's kind of weird that these 2 new characters come out and they also come out with these boarding patrols. I would love to see Games Workshop calendar and just the crazy, crazy lists that everything must be combined into. But taking a look at these boxes, the new Tau box comes with the new Commander Farsight, XV8 Tau Crisis Battlesuit team, and a squad of Fire Warriors. I'm assuming that Commander Farsight is going to cost around $60, potentially $65. He's a named character on a larger base, but Games Workshop doesn't seem to push the Xenos factions quite as hard in the price as like Space Marines. Like there's a Space Marine tax from Games Workshop. If you buy like a Space Marine character is like $45, where an Eldar character is going to be like $35. There is an actual Space Marine tax if you want to play Space Marines. So I think that $60 is going to be what Commander Farsight costs. And so that's what I've used to do my calculations to see the value of this box. Tau Crisis Battlesuit team is $80 for your 3 guys and their hodgepodge of drones that come along with them. And the good old-fashioned Fire Warrior team is $60. All of them added up, it totals $200 for a savings of $75, assuming that this box is going to cost the $125 that the Chaos and Tyrannid box cost, which it gosh darn better. Because then we would have actually had to seen 3 price increases for these boxes, and these boxes have only been coming out for like less than 4 months now. It's wild. The Space Marine one dropped at 110, and then the Chaos and Tyrannids dropped at 125, and I would hate to see these drop at an even higher price point. But good old Games Workshop. $75 savings, not too shabby. You can kind of look at it like you're getting the Tau Crisis Battlesuits for $5, which is a good deal because they're for some reason very, very expensive and very lovely and cool miniatures. You gotta have some Crisis Battlesuits for your Tau army. And I really like the new Commander Farsight. So if I was gonna go down the Tau path, I think that this box would actually be a really, really nice one to get. And keep in mind with all of these boxes, they are going to be limited run products. So they're not gonna sit on the shelves for years and years like the Combat Patrols do. These are gonna be kind of limited edition, and once they're gone, they're gone. And moving right along to the Orcs. The Orc box also comes with the new Snick Rot miniature, which I'm assuming is gonna have a price tag of $45. And the reason that I think it's gonna be $45 is because the new War Boss and Mega Armor and the new Beast Naga's War Boss are both $40, but Zogrot, the named character, the named hero War Boss was $45. So I would assume that this guy, because he's also named, is going to be $45. You're paying $5 extra for the name. So assuming that new Snick Rot is $45, this box also comes with Orc Beast Naga Boys, which cost $60 for 10. Flash Gits, one of my favorite Orc units that I've always wanted to collect and paint, but I've never gotten around to it. And so this box was really, really tempting me. Flash Gits retail for $60, and the new Kill Team Commando Orc Boys, which is actually 11 miniatures. You get 10 orcs and 1 Gretchen, actually 12, because you get the little Gretchen, you get the little sneaky Gretchen, and you get the Bomb Squig. And so if you were at all thinking about getting into Kill Team, the Orc Commandos are a lovely, lovely little kill team. They're one of the simplest of the bespoke teams, where instead of having tons and tons of synergies between, there's definitely plenty, but for the most part, the orcs, each boy is tough as nails at 10 wounds, and their guns hit like a brick, every single one of them. They're pretty good. They're pretty darn good. I have lost many, many, many a time to the Orc Commandos, and so I would actually love to turn the tables and actually play with Orc Commandos. Ooh, I could do a mirror matchup against Nick. Orc Commando versus Orc Commando. That's how you really tell who the superior general is. A mirror matchup. That would be really, really fun. The total retail price, if you add up all of those units that come in the box, is $230, and so I am very pleased to report that the Orcs have the best savings out of any of these Boarding Patrol boxes at $105 of savings, which is very, very nice. I'm glad that they didn't cheap out and just throw a DACA jet in there, because it seems like they always just throw a DACA jet in there because they don't sell because they're terrible. But yeah, this box comes with tons and tons of excellent orcs. I don't own any of these orcs because I haven't added any of the Beast Nagas to my force. I don't have any Flash Gits. Obviously, I don't have the new Snick Rot, and I am very, very wanting to get the new Kill Team Boys. So this box is really, really calling my name. And $105 in savings. What's kind of great about that is when I looked at all of the Combat Patrols and the Christmas Battle Forces that Games Workshop came out with last year, orcs always kind of ranked pretty low in terms of value, and the unit selection that they decided to put in these boxes has always been a little ramshackle, which is how you want your orcs to look, but it's not how you want your orcs to be organized for sale. So I think that this box is excellent. I can't wait to try out all of these new kits that I've never gotten the chance to take a look at. New Snick Rot is awesome, and I really want to play the Orcs in Kill Team. I've been playing the Orcs as greenskins out of the compendium, which is fine. It was a little bit better before a lot more of these kill teams would come out, but nowadays, greenskins from the compendium are, they're pretty weak. It is hard. It is very hard to get a win with them. Where commandos are pretty well balanced. Probably a B tier team. If you were ranking all 40 kill teams on a chart, they'd probably end up around the B tier. Some very cool stuff from Games Workshop. But you know what else is even cooler? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we make a new STL terrain pack, perfect for games like Warhammer 40k or Kill Team every single month. This month, we have the Starship Bridge, a grim, dark captain's throne room full of stained glass and awesomeness. We also make one extra episode of Eons of Battle every single week, where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and gives us some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. We host live Discord hangouts, and we have a tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines, and you can join the Legion. This week, we got a lot of fun new miniatures from Games Workshop. Very Xenos heavy, which I like to see. I like when the Xenos get a little bit of love, because it often very much feels like the Space Marine Fest, the Space Marine Party, the Space Marine Birthday all day, every year from Games Workshop. So I like it when the Tau and the Gene Stealers and the Necrons and all of those cool little Xenos factions get a little loving from Games Workshop. Thanks for watching.